right, here we are live with not Arkheim Ra and Kat, but Edward Hughes and Kat, Aphelion, and we're going to go into that. Earlier today, I hogged Edward all to myself for like 2 hours. I never done live. I didn't record, and I feel bad, but maybe there's some stuff we went over that it's okay that we keep.
It's like maybe it's best to have a private conversation at first, so
yeah,
it's a good thing.
Yeah, and I've got a lot of it up here. But having said that, Edward is from a parallel Earth timeline, and he would have been physically residing mostly in Pine Gap, Australia, and then also he's done time travel 20 and back missions, but of a different nature than Arkheim Ra over here in the Montauk Project. Over in his timeline, the projects are of a much more benevolent nature. A lot of the Illuminati, derp state, cabal stuff, shenanigans, and black magic occult workings that have been so they've wreaked so much havoc in this timeline. Very fortunately for Edward's timeline is not the case. And with that, let Edward introduce more about himself.
Perfect, thanks, Brian. So basically, and it's great that Kat is here. She was working earlier, so she can't be here. She can kind of give you a perspective on what it's like for me to just enter this reality as I have. But basically, in the reality which I'm from, a great deal of what our military does is, in not like some of it's more secretive, but it's also known at the same time, which we talked about in the last interview, and we'll reiterate again. But basically, we protect our reality from your reality. So some of these Satanists and dark, we call them archonic forces because it's not always the same thing. They don't always worship the same God. They don't always worship the same deity. But it's always the same bullshit that comes with them, right? They worship darkness. They worship evil. They thrive in chaos. These types of entities, we have certain almost like protocols to deal with them in our reality. And so our reality is much different from your reality because we have benefited from protecting ourselves from these parasites, basically. That's a great deal of it. Like, for instance, and as I spoke upon before, like the fact that here petrol is used as a way to harvest energy from the earth. So it's all very black magic. Like, you're taking the blood of the earth and you're animating like parts that you dug up from the earth with petrol. It's like there's some black magic things going on, which I don't think people think about that here. And then the harvesting financial energy by forcing everyone to use vehicles, and also loose energy because people sit in traffic and they feel angry, and that's like dinner time for them. So it's like that's like an aspect of it. Well, in the same breath, and again, it's kind of like before was rehearsal. I think that my reality has benefited greatly from, well, we use trains, zeppelins. Cities are a bit more walkable, and it's good. And I've also learned too from Arkheim about the 15-minute cities and the World Economic Forum vision of turning a good thing, a walkable city. It's brilliant, great idea. If you've been to Amsterdam, it's wonderful in this reality, but they can turn that idea into a way to entrap people, and that's what they do. They love to take something that's beautiful, brilliant, and go, oh, well, how can we turn this into something evil? They're just masters at it, to the point where it's almost comical sometimes. Like, it's just so ridiculous the way they do it. But basically, yeah, that's like the biggest difference between my reality and yours is like...
Oh, Edward, I gotta say, we discussed a lot. I mean, in your reality, there is a known human presence on Mars, and the ET presence is much more out in the open, and ant people at inner Earth are also known things. And you're from 2028 is the equivalent time in your timeline to Earth?
Yes, I believe so, and I'm very confused. So I don't know why I'm here, and I believe it's quite possible that I died and that's why I'm here, which is screwy. Like, it's been talked about in many esoteric circles about how when you die, well, your consciousness is just going to go to a different timeline or something, right? I think that's what happened, sort of. So I believe that Edward may have passed away, and that's why I'm here. And I believe that he passed away, perhaps, potentially, in the year 2028, because that's like the last I remember. And it's interesting because it's just different. Like, it felt, and I think that part of it, like, for instance, like, the trains I would ride on, right, they were the same that, like, maybe my parents or my grandparents would ride on. And so that energy is carried. And so it's like, to me, it's like everything, even if our technology is more advanced, it still, like, feels older. It's really weird. And if you...
It's like a steampunk type feel?
Sort of. I think that's, like, inaccurate, but also it's, like, maybe the closest you can get. So we'll work with that. That's not totally inaccurate.
Or we mentioned Tartaria earlier. I asked you about that, and you could elaborate on that, because in our timeline we don't have zeppelins and free energy.
Tartaria is an alternate reality that, like, there's merges, there's, like, collapses. So, like, timelines, they'll go like this, like that way, and then they'll go that way, and they'll kind of bridge into each other. And Tartaria was like, reality was very split, going into very many directions simultaneously. And in many realities, things did not go the Tartarian route, I guess is what you would say. And in other realities, in order to create the merge, they had to, like, artificially sort of destroy Tartaria.
Splice it out.
From history and phase it out. It's all very black magic. Like, all of this stuff is very black.
So it was not in it, and it was obviously not in the interest of this timeline to have Tartaria phased out of this timeline.
No, it's because they want to use, like, technology against people and have people separate from technology, and they, like, free energy, for instance, is bad. Like, for instance, like, vehicles, like, that's wonderful. Vehicles are great, but to make them run on petrol and make people then have to pay, like, a registration and then gas and then insurance and then just, it's, like, very prohibitive, and it steals a lot of financial energy from people.
Meanwhile, in your timeline, you said they rent much smaller vehicles and cars. They've got dirigibles, trains. It's less their roads, but it's less paved over.
And as I said before, it's like, maybe I'm not meaning to propaganda. Like, I literally remember commercials like, don't own a car sort of thing. Like, they love public transport. We appreciate it. Like, we value it greatly in our society. But farmers would be an example of someone who'd own like a vehicle, and just certain different people who live out in the boonies, they would have a vehicle.
That's very important.
And then also, even people maybe in the city who need to leave the city or go off to certain places that trains don't go to, they may have vehicles. But at the edge of the city, there's normally, like, a station with a parking lot, and a train will take you there, and you can rent a vehicle. And in my reality, they're, like, kind of all look the same. They're like little white cars. You can fit, like, your briefcase and your suitcase and whatever in the back, and you can travel around, and they're electric. They don't run on petrol. But we use solar energy and free energy and different various more healthy versions of energy, which is weird, because one of the things too is, like, with the Tesla energy, which people talk about, it actually can mess with the gravitational field of the Earth. So it's fine to use that as an energy, but when lots of people start using it, it actually can be bad, is what we've learned various times in various planets, on various timelines. We've been like, oh shit, that's what's causing all these problems. So just pointing that out to people. Tesla was very brilliant, and he was onto a lot of things, but he was like a pioneer. A lot of stuff that he was figuring out got refined, and that's like secret space program technologies. It's not Tesla technology, it's refined. He's like a refined Tesla tech. He's like a pioneer of sorts, if that makes any sense.
Dude, was William Tompkins in your timeline to build up the secret space program fleet? Because, like, the way he was here with the U.S. Navy?
Not familiar with that name, but
and you said JFK never.
Tesla was in my timeline because I was just talking about him. So yeah.
Yeah. Oh yeah, Nikola Tesla
But
definitely.
William Tompkins. Maybe if I saw a picture or something, it'd be different. But that name floats right by me.
Sure. And then you said JFK in your timeline was never killed. World War II went very differently.
Yeah, but he was more of a celebrity. He never became president. He was more of just like a figurehead, more of just like a playboy. And
Trump?
He never became president.
How about Trump?
Never a president either. He's around, he exists, but I don't think it's kind of like similar with JFK. Never became a president.
So do you have, who's a president then in your timeline around when you last remember?
It's gonna blow your mind. Bernie Sanders.
That doesn't blow my mind. That actually makes a lot of sense.
Yeah, it's Bernie Sanders.
That makes a lot of sense because
Well, no one asked me, and I had to think about it.
Yeah, well, he would have been president in this timeline if not for a lot of fuckery. So it makes sense that he'd be president in that timeline minus the fuck. So now you said that this is a very heavily edited timeline compared to the timeline.
Yeah, like mine's edited, and we know that. Like I'm aware of it, and I thought ours was like. It's funny because there's like so much stuff where like I kind of thought my timeline was shit and had lots of problems and crime and things like that. And like I'm here, I'm like, holy shit!
Yeah,
didn't realize how good I had it, kind of thing. So that's one thing that's been very interesting to me. Like I've learned a lot. It's not that, and I don't mean to talk shit about this timeline. Like it's all bad. Like the one thing I want to say about the vehicles that was quite good for you in this timeline, which by the way, my timeline. Edited event, how do we say it? Something that happened recently, big event. The censors hate it when you talk about it.
A worldwide.
Yeah, exactly.
That thing. Yeah.
That did not exist in my reality, but from what I can see, is like if that were to occur in my reality and the powers that be, they could shut things down much easier. So it was interesting how their vehicles, which they used to harvest energy from you, was the same thing that you used to say "fuck you" to them. Like
drive around.
Quite poetic. Like they're like, "Stay in your home, don't go anywhere," yada yada. And people are like, "Well, I'm gonna go to Yosemite and go camping with my family," like and do things. You know what I mean? Like, it wasn't even like. Necessarily like that they wanted to make people avoid each other. It's like they wanted to keep people trapped in just like one spot, and the fact that people were able to kind of say no, like if it was the trains, well they can just shut them down. So that's one benefit. It's like it's not like it's all bad, but believe me, in this it's maddening being in this reality. Like everything is built around cars. Like they're whirring all over the place. It's loud. It's dangerous.
Yeah, like we rode at on our first date. Like we rode at the bar, and like we're trying to have like a pleasant conversation, and like you can't have a conversation.
Our first date, by the way, not our king, but me. And
Edward, I should clarify. Yeah, and like every few minutes, there's some car like. Burring down the road, making a ton of noise, interrupting your conversation. It was quite unpleasant, I think. But
and it's just like one of those things where I just think it's like a tool, a utility, and it's like you don't go too crazy with it. Like I don't think they should ban cars, but I think you went a bit insane, making like all of your infrastructure dependent on
it. And like as we were discussing earlier today. This is a reality that's been heavily infiltrated, taken over by these negative, Luciferian,
iconic forces. Because as I said, they might worship different gods. Some of them fight each other. There's infighting. They might not all like each other, even if they're all the same fucking thing. They worship darkness. And the parasites, they need to be treated as such.
Now, I got to ask you. You were mentioning, we were talking earlier about how in that parallel timeline, you've been to Mars because you fulfill a certain role there, and it seems like it's a mixture of civilian and
and
military.
Earth has like an ancient connection, and there are like native humans on Mars, and some of the humans on Earth are actually from Mars. There's like cross pollination, but basically, It's like the new, what do they call it? The new migration. They call it the new migration is what they call it. And it's basically like the new wave of humans going to Mars for whatever reason, which was, a lot of it was sparked by World War II and things like that. But basically, losing my train of thought here, the Great Migration, World War
to Mars. How Edward ended up on Edward ended up on Mars doing the work you were doing.
We colonized Mars in our reality, but not as brutally. And I'll be honest with you, we did do some shit that was wrong. Like we did burn out some chin eater bases, meaning the ant people. We call them chin eaters, and we did. I suppose that's kind of a racist term. I shouldn't use that. But I've educated you now. That's something that humans on Mars call these ant people as chin eaters because they eat from the chins. But basically, we also were pretty terrible to them in this timeline, but much less so. And we sort of like, because there's another aspect, it's like people on Earth knew about the colonization on Mars. It wasn't like totally hidden from them. So many people on Earth were upset over it, and vice versa, people on Mars were upset over it. And so it still happened, but not, we didn't just like genocide like as many raptors and ant people and things like that.
The spiders.
And the spiders, that's interesting
Yeah.
too. So there's a version of me who's lived on Mars named Jack, which also there's a version of him that lives on Mars in this timeline named Jack, which is interesting.
Mm-hmm.
But basically, I actually had a pet spider, and there's various kinds. So that was something we got to talk about, and I'll reiterate, like they're not all the same. Humans, it's not very common. Like the ant people have them, and they have a telepathic bond with them, and they're much like dogs. And again, like I said before, it's like very rough approximation to call them dogs. It's totally different, but also fairly comparable. And basically, Jack, the version of me, I had a spider named Harry, which was one of the smaller breeds. And you can actually,
how big was Harry compared to
this room? Like you'd barely fit in this room, sort of very big.
Wow.
Like, yeah, like
he's a smaller. And he's a smaller.
Yeah, then that's smaller. There's bigger ones. Yes, for sure. Yeah.
Okay, and then when you ride on them, how do you get on them, and where do you hold on, and where does their stinger?
Like a horse, you put a thing on the back.
A foot stirrup.
Okay, so you harness them. You put gear on them. You don't ride them bareback.
No, you got like gear attached to them and stuff, and kind of like a dog. Like
I made a little like I use the face. I try not to use the
meta AI thing.
But yeah, I used it to make a picture of something like that, and I showed it to him, and he's like, "Yeah, that's basically what it looks like."
And it's interesting because I love Harry very much. I cared about him, so like it was interesting because like he had a telepathic connection with me. So like there was no question of trust. Like he trusted me. Like I knew I basically died for him, and he knew he would die for me, and we protected each other like we were a team.
What was their lifespan?
5 to 7 years.
Oh, okay.
Not long.
It's not long.
Lifespan of a guinea pig.
Oh. And then where's their stinger at?
Certain species have a stinger like at the butt. Yeah, a stinger. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
So like the back end, at the back end of their lower abdomen.
Okay. And how fast?
Like they have the 8 eyes and 8 legs, but some of them only have 6 eyes and 6 legs and stuff. It's different variations, as I said. Like they're not all the same, and so there's like just slightly different kinds, maybe almost like different species on Earth or something like that.
Because you confirmed that there's, just as here on Inner Earth, you confirmed in your timeline it's more of a known thing, although there's still, it's not like people just go down there. Is there an Inner Mars as well?
Yeah, but it's more like just like it's not like, as far as I recall, to my knowing, it's more like just like deep underground military bases and like.
Is that beautiful? Is that
normally would be happening on the surface, but they had this tumultuous period where you couldn't really be on there. Arguably, even now it's still like that. But that's a big part of it. And it's not, yeah, but in Earth, there's like high vibration, high dimensional beings who kind of avoid the beings on the surface. But in my reality, instead of it being like totally hidden, it's known and we respect them and they do what best to respect us. And we kind of view it as like they're letting us evolve, like catch up to them. And they let ambassadors go in there and come back and tell stories. But as you asked me, do they take pictures? No. Because it's like sort of like the way they look at it is like, we're not like it's like, hey, can you sing a song? Can you dance for us? Like, can we see pictures? It's like they actually don't want that. And then also not only that, black magicians can peer into our reality, see the pictures, and through the pictures more effectively remote view things like that, like pictures, like the idea it captures your soul and all these things. It's kind of slightly.
There's a quantum interlock. There's a potential quantum interlock there.
Yeah, it's slightly true. Like there's, like it's half true, half not. Like that, it can kind of capture your soul because through a picture, someone can peer into that moment and capture you.
Right.
Doesn't mean it will happen inevitably, but it could. Does that make any sense?
Yeah. There's definitely an occult magical significance that the Aboriginal people probably grasp that's lost on the typical Western mind. You were mentioning more about Mars and the work of Edward on Mars, and it's really through an altar. So it's like even in that timeline, the military will still employ altars, but it's less of a mind control thing, or how does that work? Because you said Jack on Mars.
Of it. Like, so for instance, like in your reality, they say, hey, do this thing. We might have to, there's some stuff you can't tell people about, mate. We might even have to edit your memory or whatever. They'll tell you that. But when they tell you, but you're going to get paid, when you come back, they actually pay you.
Right, to the 20 and back, right, to the 20 and backs in Edward's timeline. They'll send you on a 20 and back, but after your 20 years is over,
they don't kidnap people for it.
And they edit your memory, but they don't totally wipe it.
And the children that are like turned into super soldiers, they're from military families, and it's more like they're just like from warrior clan, I guess, sort of like.
It's more voluntary.
Yeah, it's more voluntary. If you're born into that kind of family, you kind of have no choice, but somebody's got to do it, and the people do it.
Because World War II went very differently in your timeline. You were saying.
Yeah, it did. Yeah. So the bad Germans, that's what we'll call them, they won actually, and they were around for. I can't remember the exact window, but they were around for a while. But we didn't like them. No one taught. It's just like they were bullies, and just no one liked them, and they just were too aggressive, and it backfired on them. And sort of like in this timeline, they did end up just fleeing the Earth because there's just too much pushback, and they wanted their nation, so they had to, go build it somewhere where everyone looks the same or whatever. So that's what they did.
And then were they as rapey and slavey in your timeline over there as they are in this timeline, or because we didn't have so many
Germans, as we'll call them? That is literally the Archonic forces coming into this timeline.
Was through them.
They were bad. They were very evil, and I'm very grateful that we did as good of a job as we did to get rid of them. Like I said, we initially sort of lost, but there was just like it was like a Cold War for like I think it was 8 years, and then there was more of like pushback, like active pushback. And I don't remember exactly how long it took, but I know that eventually they decided to just leave. Which is what, like that's literally what they did in your reality. They decided, fuck it, because they want in Blood Nation, I don't want to say the word, but yeah, that's what they want. So, and it's easier to like create that environment if you like literally like start from fresh. So that's what they did.
And now they did that, and they've got breakaways, and then there's other breakaways like in your timeline, civilizations, just like in this timeline, except they're a lot less secret. Most of them aren't told that Earth is uninhabitable due to a cobalt bomb war.
Yeah, much less of that. Yeah, it's more like it's known that the space travel, And there are lots of tariffs and like restrictions and special permissions that I have to get to go to certain places and do certain things. But people know that like there's space and there's aliens and stuff. They know that. It's like not hidden. We understand on Earth that in our timeline that like we need to learn and have our own culture and do our own thing. So it's not like there's aliens walking around everywhere, but it's also not unheard of to maybe see one somewhere because we do know they're real and we don't really have to hide it.
And so this kind of begs a question of what is. It almost sounds like there wasn't a need for a full disclosure movement in your timeline the way there is here. And I got to ask you that there's a parallel me in that timeline. My father's still alive. The company is successful.
Yeah, so Tseng Laboratories, very similar, but just like I guess more advanced. Like he's involved in robotics and like AI, like not in a bad way. Like it's positive. Considers himself a bit of like an artist almost with what he creates sometimes. And that's the way he looks at it, which in a way is quite beautiful. But yeah, you kind of follow in his footsteps more and like more of a scientist and more of like helping with the laboratory side of things and like seeing how you can implement like the technology and it very much so in the same way, like you want to benefit humanity and help humanity and you step into that like a similar role, but just in a different way. Fortunately, that's what you're able to do there. Unfortunately, here, those types of technologies that your father was integral in getting out to the public and everything and stuff like that. He wasn't alone. There are many other people he worked with, but he was a big name. Those people, it just played out differently in this timeline, obviously, to where we have to hide these things and. He was more publicly known to be like a part of the breakaway and same thing with you. You didn't have to like be a disclosure person on the internet. You were able to use your intellect for other things, just like coming up with ideas and trying to help use the technology your father already invented, but like apply it to certain things, like come up with new ways to apply the technology. If that makes any sense to you.
That makes a lot of sense. In fact, you're also saying that in terms of the technology, in that timeline, my family, we might even had access to our own ship.
Yeah, the Tseng family definitely had a ship, and you might have even had your own shot or something like that. Like, I'm not familiar with you, but you're sort of like, and I personally don't need to go there. I don't like the guy, but almost like a Musk type, where people might read about you in the newspaper or whatever.
Hilarious.
Your dad was more famous than you, but you were also in the Spy Association, and I do know that you would like going to other planets and things like that, and that you had your own family craft and perhaps even your own personal one.
Oh, and I want to share this with the audience. It really pissed me off when Edward confirmed that in that timeline they do have hoverboards.
Yes, they do.
Like the real ones, not
like
just
Back to the Future, like Back to the Future, where they're like.
What do you mean?
Like
we got these little things that like they just go on two wheels and like you stand on them and
they're lame. I'm talking like a real floating anti-gravity board.
They have them.
See, that's another example of something that Edward does not know that Arkheim knows, so that I have to like fill him in. So we'll go into that more a little bit later. But that's just one
we can maybe go into that. Like,
it's a good time. Yeah, talk about that.
Like, what was it like meeting me? Can you explain that?
Oh my god. Yes. So, oh my god, it was pretty wild. So basically, I was just, I work from home, and I'd sent, I think I'd sent Arkheim out to like get some groceries and sundries and things like that, and he got really stressed out, and he had a couple beers, something like that.
Well, it was partially the toothache.
Yeah. Oh yeah. He has a toothache, so he's been kind of medicating with a little bit of whiskey, and he was texting me as his alter kind of texting me as going between him and Ryan Sterling, which is an alter of his that's married to one of my alters, whose name is Cynthia. And then so we were kind of texting back and forth. It was really lovey-dovey. It was really cute, texting with him and Ryan. And then he comes home and he like bursts open the door through the door, and he's like talking in this Australian accent, and he's like, "Oh my God, Cynthia, I haven't seen you in 73 years." And it's like, and he starts like making out with me and stuff. And it's like, okay, I guess this is kind of unexpected, but I really like it. You know what
you talk about Cynthia, Edward.
So yeah, she's like more confident than her, and more, I guess, like, I don't know, just like, it's weird.
More like stepped into my power, I guess you could say.
Yeah, I guess would be one thing to say. More activated, that'd be a word to say it.
Yeah.
And very elegant, like, for instance, oh, this is funny, you love this, Brian. So I love the cartoon Dragon Ball. And I asked her, would you like to watch that? And she likes it. And Cynthia would never, that's like,
yeah, that'd be
not elegant enough or whatever. It's not
enough.
a ballet or a play or some shit.
Yeah.
So she wouldn't want to watch that.
Yeah.
But I love Dragon Ball. I watched that as a youngin', and it's one of my favorite shows. So we're rewatching that. It's the Dragon Ball series.
Yeah.
Because it exists in your reality, thankfully. And then in your reality, you have a Dragon Ball Z, which we do not have in our reality.
Yeah.
There's no Z on the end.
Oh, there's no Dragon Ball Z.
Yeah.
That's exciting to me. It's like a whole nother story arc. I can't wait
Is
to.
it similar? Is it different, or how similar?
I'm not sure. I watched the first episode. The first episode seems exactly the same.
Yeah.
Because I asked you because there's no need for disclosure. Things went down differently. I asked you about the film Star Wars and what Star Wars is in your reality.
We have it in our reality, and I'll just re-answer the question the same way for the audience, basically. But it's not like known. But basically, like, we watch it in the military, and they show us like stuff from other realities or other worlds maybe that we might not be aware of or whatever, and they just tell you, just don't ask where it's from, just enjoy it. And it's not like you can save it on your phone or film it or something. You watch it and that's it.
So were you in Mars when you watched that? Or did you watch it on Earth?
I believe I was on like a shuttle going somewhere, something like that. I don't think I was on Mars, but yeah, I just remember watching it though and it blowing my fucking mind. I was like, this is amazing. Where the fuck does this come from? It's incredible. Theatrical work. Brilliant. Absolutely brilliant.
And what are you said, how do people get between Earth and Mars in your timeline?
So yeah, you're asking all the right questions, going right through them. It's perfect. Yeah, so like we do have portals in my reality, but like your reality, it's like clandestine, like secret. But the difference between your reality and the one I'm from is like more people like know about portals. You know what I mean? Like it's like the powers that be in the media or whatever will be like, that's not real, it's bullshit. But like everyone knows it's true, really, kind of. You know what I mean? And there's a lot of like propaganda definitely exists where it comes from. There's quite a bit of it. I think that's an unavoidable part of human existence, is propaganda. But I think the difference is like we're able to discern it more and be like, okay, well, this is clearly propaganda. And sometimes
it's like an open secret over there.
Propaganda's right, frankly. Right. Sometimes it's wrong. That's why you need to have the ability to discern and understand, you know what I mean? Logic, which is something that they don't teach you in the schools in this reality, but in our reality, logic is like one of the basic things that they teach you.
Yeah, and then so because they do have portal technology, but it's more still military kept secret, but it's almost like an open secret. It's
just like it's not, and in the future, I do know because I have done some time travel things. Because I am like an agent, so I do get to know secrets and things. And in the future, there are public portals. And it's much like an airport where you get to the gate and you walk through. They scan you and they make sure you don't have a bomb or whatever, and then they send you on your way. But instead of walking through and it being this massive facility and then you got to wait around and getting on an airplane and all that, you're just there. You're there where you be.
And you said also, in terms of their ability to detect crimes, there's more psychic detectives in your timeline.
Yeah, it's out in the open. Like, in your reality, you do have them, psychic detectives, where they might go around the cities and things like that and read people's minds and sort of pick up on things and prevent crimes.
I mean, that's not a known thing, at least out in the open in this timeline.
In the open, but it does happen. And then on Mars, though, in both realities, on Mars, that's like out in the open. Like, they do that out in the open.
Because you said they're more psychic on Mars for some reason? The abilities seem to be stronger on Mars? Or
it's just like a part of life there. Like, no one's like, is telepathy real? That's not a question people ask. That's just reality. Yes,
because people are seeing telepathic spiders and ant people.
Yeah, like in humans, they mostly speak to each other. And there's quite a few of them who aren't telepathic, but some are. But like the fact that so many like ET and stuff, like it's much harder to like
discount that.
Like it's a part of life. Like we're all telepathic, but humans have sort of like purposely like stunted themselves sort of away from that in order to have the fruit of learning what it's like to not have that, if that makes any sense. It's weird, but that's literally something that humanity did. It's like stunted its own psychic ability. And
with the Anunnaki, the Shah meme might have done that too to help.
Yeah, it's a part of our past. Yeah, it's like that. Like we used to be more aware, more powerful. They sever the connection to the gut because the gut is like your psychic connection to source, to God, to everything, and that's why people say just use your gut. You know what I mean? But they like have done a lot in your reality. The parasites. That's why like everyone's talking about parasite cleanses and things like that. That's actually very great. I'd love to see that. It's amazing to me how, despite a lot of shit in this reality where people are like have no clue and that people are on to something there, and many people are learning and many people are cleansing themselves, and I love to see that. That's so positive. So I don't mean to come here on my soapbox and just be like, your reality shit, you're all idiots. There's some things you're doing right here, like you're the parasites. You're all learning and you're understanding
Let's talk about that. Part of why our reality, our timelines are so different is because these archonic forces through things like the Vatican, you said, doesn't even exist in your timeline.
No, they briefly did, but we kicked them out.
Around what period, around what time period did that Vatican end? Did the Vatican end?
They lasted for like, I think, like maybe like 370 years.
So they died in the ancient Roman times.
Yeah, and it was
or Renaissance maybe.
That's a drop in the bucket as far as time goes. Yeah.
Yeah, and it was just like archonic forces came in, and the whole thing was sort of exposed as well. That's what it was in the first place, and it's different. Like Templars, for instance, they're like knights of God. Like they're truly knights of God, but they were infiltrated. So like the ones who worship Baphomet, like that's an inversion of a positive group. Like the Templars are not negative. They're supposed to be positive, but they were infiltrated.
Right, so the inverted ones, they turned to Baphomet and all that in this timeline.
As well, yeah, I suppose, yes, exactly. Yeah, but and it's not just Baphomet. They worship like Satan, Baal. Like I said, it's not always the same deity. It can be different deities, but it's basically just like darkness, chaos. Like It doesn't matter what the deity is you're worshiping. You're worshiping like this nasty energy that is very detrimental to everyone around you. So that's like people are allowed to practice the faith. That's hugely important. That's a beautiful thing when people respect that. That's highly valued. But when people's faith is harming others, hurting others, that's
thing.
not allowed. Then you need to put your foot down and say no.
Right.
You're not harm others, and just because you have some religion that tells you it's okay.
And in fact, you said that in your timeline, in regarding putting your foot down and saying no, humanity did that much more strongly with Draco, Alpha Dracos in your
Yeah.
time.
So yeah, killing it with the questions, Brian. Great. Yeah, like there's been instances in humanity's history, and unfortunately, I can't like give you a specific example, but there's been instances where the Draco would like say, "Do this, and if you don't do it, we're going to like kill you all, and we will have no impunity, and you will all suffer or whatever." And in our timeline and many others instances, we said we literally don't. If we all die, whatever, we're not going to say yes to that. Fuck that. And then at the end of it all, when the dust settled, instead of them saying, all right, well, we're going to bring more reinforcements in and kill you all, whatever, they go, you have great honor. That's what you should have done. You proved yourselves. They're fucking weird, mate. Like that's what you should have done. You should have said, no, good job. We respect you now. Pat on the back, mate. It's like oversimplifying it big time, but there's literally like in situations they're like, all right, well, you said no to us, you stood up to us, the big bully, and you actually kind of kicked our asses a bit and fucked us around a bit. Good job, little one. And then they do the thing. It's like the schoolyard bill, you know, they grab you and they kind of scuffle you on the head.
Look at you.
Right? You know what I mean? That's kind of what it's like.
It's kind of like almost sounds like watching a Predator movie where the human beats the Predator and then the other Predators come down and be like, all right, good job. Props to you, human. Goodbye.
I'm not familiar with that, but it seems like you might be, it sounds about right.
Yeah. We'll have to show that to Edward when you get the chance, Kat.
Yeah, absolutely. A lot of things.
And now, in terms of in your timeline, with all these differences, can you talk about the work that Edward has done with the timeline? Like, what does that look like, the missions from your perspective? Because I know that the time missions at Arkheim and the
we had to set my missions were shutting down the temple set on Mars.
What did that look like?
It.
So infiltrating the temple is set on Mars.
The temple is because I'm connected to Ra. And then basically, yeah, I infiltrated it from the inside, and then I destroyed it and got rid of the temple complex on Mars.
What year was that?
Confusingly enough, it was like 2138.
Okay, so it's a time travel thing.
Yeah, like they showed up to the future and were trying to create a temple there after the colonies were more established and stuff. And
so that was like sounds like an incursion attempt to establish a temple to bring in archonic forces in your timeline.
And that's why we said no and just showed up pretty quick.
And then what do you when you say shut it down, with explosives, with laser beams, with what? A spider army,
through ritual, through bringing in some of the they depended on amnesia for much of it. And to simply bring in some of these gods, but without the amnesia they depended on them having. Things like this. It was mostly like tricking them, playing tricks at them on their own game and shit like this.
This is like out-magicking them.
Yeah, sort of, yeah. And then also some of it was like literally just like combat, like blowing places up and shit. Like being like, fuck you can't have a temple here, we're blowing up your church.
And how much of a thing is remote viewing in your timeline with so much more psychic activation and ability?
And you actually can get in trouble by the police if they can prove that. Like, for instance, if you remote view a lady against a will, there's ways of like proving that. It's quite difficult, but
yeah,
people
Tomas Alvin, you've been warned.
Real remote viewers, like remote viewing women.
Guys, Tomas Alvin, I'm going to put it on blast. Tomas Alvin, you are being warned.
Oh, you naming names.
I know.
I'm naming names. I am naming names.
I'm not familiar with this
name.
Yeah,
this name for sure. I've heard from at least 2 or 3 different women in our community.
Yeah, I have
seeing his head peeking over their crown molding.
Yeah, I did. Yeah. Oh, it's just it's
a bug. All right.
Yeah. Nothing weird yet.
Nothing magic.
Okay. And in terms of in your timeline, Geez, I feel like we did a good job covering a lot of what we what I never
Yeah,
recorded.
now there's room for more even, right? So it's great. Perfect.
Yeah.
Now I jumping. Let's take a look in the comments because I know I saw Preston Nichols pop in. Okay, and so
my God.
he's trolling. So now we
Well,
talked about this.
what do I have to say? Huh? I'm curious.
He's just saying it's boring, and he doesn't have much to say. He's always just a fat slob. So
Yeah.
let's see.
Normally, I would just kick him out. Fine, what kind of guns you got? Let's go to range, he says.
Okay.
Is that what he's saying? Fat fuck is saying that to me?
I'm in your
That's not a smart move. That's not a good move, old
Yeah.
Whatever.
Good luck, buddy. Good.
Jeff, buddy, got this other Edward stuff out. You can't run. I'm just reading it. I'm just gonna kick him out. I didn't pay attention this time. Normally I pay attention, but this time.
Well, earlier when we were speaking today, you and I, we had another visitor, and you detected him because
you know his body.
Yeah.
Yes. Now, how did you know it was him? Did he give you a psychic impression, or what was happening?
It just the electricity, and then you couldn't see me, I couldn't see you, and it was like. And then I could feel him.
Interesting. Okay, interesting. Let's see if anyone has any questions here in the audience, minus any trolls. Let's see.
The last thing he said is, "Oh wow, there's two of them. Jesus!" So I got rid of him, and he's still here. He says, "Brian, I would love to do some CQB training with you. Do you know what that is?"
Yeah, close quarters, well, combat, but yeah.
I know before.
Well, let's put it this way, Preston. You seem to be good at fighting children, but not adults.
Yeah,
So.
It's like that episode of Seinfeld where Kramer goes to the karate class and beats up all the kids, something like that.
Yeah.
Back. He says he's in my computer or whatever.
Yeah. Well, good fucking luck, buddy.
So, I know, in terms of we talk about remote viewing, and people can get in trouble if they're abusing remote viewing. But it also, I'd imagine, in your timeline,
as I said, is kind of difficult. You have to really be abusing it, unfortunately.
Right. Otherwise, are people remote viewing
in their own hands and like do shit to be like, fuck, don't do that anymore, bro? Like, for instance, like someone's brother, for instance, a woman or brother might show up somewhere and be like, hey, you prick. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? That kind of thing.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. Well, and then are people better at also learning how to do like shielding techniques and how to combat that and how to counter that?
In general, people are like more aware, and our planet it's really weird. It's irony. Our planet is more militaristic, but like openly, but like we have more peace. Like there's not as much war and like combat and like crime and shit. So it's kind of ironic, but like yeah, it's like many men they join the military, and also I was telling you, and like our reality, like it's very much so like the men like take on the protective role, and the women oftentimes stay at home.
Yeah, he's talking about he's very
old-fashioned.
Yeah, but not in like a misogynistic way, just in a very like I want to take care of you.
And let me explain this. It's like if a woman wants to be a businesswoman, she can do that. If she wants to join the military and be a hard ass, some of the most respected military people are women. But it's just less common, that's all. Anyone can do whatever the fuck they want, be whoever the fuck they want, whatever. But the masculine, parental, like protective role is very revered. And same thing with like the feminine role. It's very revered and respected.
Yeah, he's very much a gentleman. He's like, I'll get it for you. Even though like Arkheim doesn't have much money right now, Edward is still like, no, I'm gonna take you out. Like I'm gonna pay for it. Don't worry about it. I got you. Like he insists. Like
I don't know how to be another way. That's just what I'm used to.
Like look at him right now. Like he insists on like dressing up, wearing a suit. He insists on wearing a suit and dressing up during our date. He's like, I'm gonna look ridiculous if I don't.
because
the funny part too, another thing that's different from my reality is like they dress different here. Like for instance, like if I'm gonna wear gym shorts and like a t-shirt, but normally like I take off the suit in the locker room at the gym and then put that on. That's the longest you'll see me that in. You know what I mean?
You don't get people going to Walmart in their
pajamas.
It's
just like people look much nicer, but frankly, I'll just say
people.
And when I walked around, I was just like,
he was like, "Oh, these people look like clowns."
They look like clowns to me.
A lot of people do talk about that. How back in the day, before society became all dumbed down and woke and Simpsonized, how men were, walk around three-piece suits, fedoras, trench coats, red wing shoes or whatever the tips, red tip shoes or whatever, the patent leather, and women would dress up really nice and all that, and that got shifted. That's part of the archonic negativity and reversals and distortions that we suffer here.
Like I was telling him, like, people don't even dress up properly for funerals anymore. They just wear like it's like pulling teeth to get some people to wear anything other than like a polo shirt and jeans to a formal event, Like,
right, sweatpants. Yeah. So
call upon people in the chat to send some protective energy to Arkheim due to some of the things that he's being attacked with right now by people who obviously we know the names. If you could please, because I have to focus on the interview, please focus on protection for Arkheim with your minds.
That's right. No weapons of evil forged against us shall prosper.
Yeah,
exactly. That's right.
That's very powerful, Brian. Thank you for that.
Oh yeah. So, in terms of the timeline in 2028, in your timeline, it seems like Earth is in a much happier place. Where do you see us bridging our timeline where we are now and getting it closer to where you are? I don't want to say you probably have that Star Trek future, right? Would you say that's
the simplest thing is like, and it's ironic, but in order to like get to a Star Trek future, you have to sort of get back to your ancient past and like back to your connection with the Gaia and the Earth. You have to mend that because it's like crystal technology and like spaceships that are alive and shit. Like it's not like you just like here where you turn it on with a key and you know what I mean. Like it's different. The technology.
Are you talking the ships in the future or in your timeline?
In general, even in your reality, like the most like the ships are advanced. Like it takes
AI, like crystal AI tech,
crystals, and also like Voyager, Star Trek Voyager actually like depicts it like quite realistically how it's
the
like
biological
computer. Yeah, exactly. But they don't depict the fact that the captain like links with the ship and that the tissue is normally like. The DNA is also part of the Earth. The ship.
There's a genetic component.
Like it's alive, and like they'll oftentimes like have a name for it, like like Sheila or whatever the hell, you know what I mean? They'll have a name for it, or it might be something epic like the Titan or whatever, but they still call it she, you know what I mean? Like and treat it like a she, and address it as such.
And the majority of the craft, at least at the human level, even with that technology, that's all mostly in the military sector. That's not like the your normal civilians aren't going to have access to that, are they?
No, like, yeah, like you can get a spaceship and you can move around, but like it costs a lot of money. Normally, like, okay, why do you need your own ship? Are you smuggling something? You know what I mean? Public transport, as I said, is kind of the way where I'm from. Like people go places on public vessels and stuff. So it's not that people don't own their own ships or cars or anything like that. They do, but it's just less common. That's all.
Oh, well, I mean, right. Well, cars is one thing, but to have ships in your timeline, I think that's
a resource. There's a lot of money, and then like tariffs and laws, and
right.
Like up the ass, mate. Like endless. So like. People can do it, but it's like expensive, you know. So normally it's on like business entities and things like that.
And then is Arasaka Robotics, are they a thing in your timeline?
Wow, you know about that? That's wild. Yeah, yep, yeah.
Okay, and then how about Monarch Corporation and Labyrinth and all that? Do you have to battle those to prevent incursions in Monarch Group?
Yeah, they exist. They've
ACIO.
you know, it's weird. We've actually had to work with some of these people in instances where, like, even though we look at them as a bit evil, mutual interests, like we work with some of these very evil forces actually in certain points. Like I know, and nobody on the set, this is not public knowledge, but I know that like deep on the inside, we're aware of like Kruger, we're aware of Monarch, and we try to keep them at bay. But there have been times where we've literally worked for them for a common interest, like for instance, like reality eating AI. That they if they don't have a reality to exist in, they can't make money and shit.
Right,
so,
it's better to team up with Monarch to fight the reality-eating
exactly.
AI and have a reality than have
reality being eaten, then team up with whoever the fuck it takes. Exactly. So yeah, they exist. They're nefarious, and also unfortunately there are like small satanic sets and things like that exist, but they have to like really hide themselves and they're much smaller and stuff, and it's. Yeah, and when they get discovered, there's really no mercy because in our reality, like, it's like a public thing. Like, everyone knows these people are evil. You can't give them an inch. They'll take a mile. They're literally fucking cockroaches. Stomp on them as soon as you see them. As soon as they reveal themselves, fucking stomp on them. That's what they deserve. It doesn't matter how politely they speak, how nice they are. All right? Because that's
what they call themselves, maps or whatever. Don't matter.
Up nice, they come in nice, and they try. Hello, how are you? They shake your hand, but the pieces of shit. You can't give them any room. As soon as you sense the energy, you must stomp on it. Stomp on it.
And so then, what does Hollywood look like in your timeline?
Much different, much more positive. Used as a propaganda vehicle. It always is. It's never going to change. Right. But reality sucks way less.
Okay, it's
not way of putting it.
Less evil. It's way less evil and inverted and twisted.
Tend to be a bit more positive and less iconic, I guess.
Okay,
and then it's very fucked up in my reality. Like the stars, they get the big egos, and then the directors, they get like they take advantage of women and things, and there's like similar to like the Me,
casting
the Me Too kind of thing.
Right.
There's a similar movement that happens a bit later than in this reality because we're so formal or whatever, so it doesn't happen like the 2030s, but it does happen. And it's very similar actually. Hollywood, it's fucked up. There's lots of like shitty people in Hollywood doing like rituals and things like that. But here's another thing I want to make you all remember: there are some people in Hollywood who are not evil. There's not many of them, but they're there. Like, I don't think Tom Green is evil. There's like small, tiny little examples, like, and I would hate to be wrong on that, but there's just certain examples where they're just funny. They're in it. They made themselves a fortune or whatever, and people know the name. But I suppose even with Tom Green, he was used. He's an idiot.
And with this timeline,
now he's very wholesome. If you follow him, Arkheim's a fan. But
really? He's wholesome now?
Yeah, he's wholesome actually. He values homesteading and like he has a farm and like it's crazy.
That sounds like a Mandela effect or something.
Yeah, he's actually he's still an raunchy comedian, but he's more wholesome now. He's grown up. But yeah, I just don't think that like he maybe was used for evil, but I don't know if he actually is. Maybe I'm wrong, and I'm kind of like speaking through art.
Keanu Reeves. What's Keanu Reeves in your timeline?
He's had to sell his soul. Basically, he's not. He's evil. Sorry.
Okay, Tom Cruise. Is he part of the space program? Kruger family.
Kruger, and yeah, he's. I don't know. That gent is wild. That's all I have to say about that.
Do people in your timeline know
of him in a way? Like, I know like versions of him who are quite charming and admirable, but I also know that he has like alternate
Evil.
versions of himself in other realities that are like nasty, and he's always, let's put it this way, he's always famous. He's born in many different realities, and in every reality he's born, and he's super fucking famous. Something huge, whether it's he's an actor or head of Kruger or whatever. That guy has an energy where like he cannot be like a nobody. He's a fucking somebody, no matter where he is, if that makes any sense.
Okay. How about Kevin Spacey, aka Paul Serene or Serene? Paul Serene. Yeah.
I don't. Arkheim doesn't know who he is, so therefore I don't.
He's a nasty actor. Nasty actor.
I'm familiar with him.
Okay. Okay.
Shall we go into the reason why I'm here?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Why don't we go into that?
Yeah. Well, let's talk about it together. Yeah. So part of the reason why we wanted to bring me on here is just so that we can sort of talk about what it's been like. Because Edward's been around for a few days at this point, and part of the reason why I came on is I just kind of wanted to talk about what it's been like to have him here, and he can talk about what it's like to interact with me, because he knows the version of him he's been with the other version of me, Cynthia.
They're basically like secret space program, secret agent, relationship advice, sort of, in a way.
Yeah, I suppose.
So Cynthia's in this SSP as well?
Yes. And she's Arkheim. So what Arkheim means is you can open portals, and you have access to alternate versions of yourself telepathically, and you can go to alternate realities without like needing like augmentation, like technology and stuff. So
that almost sounds like a Time Lord.
Yeah, that's basically what it means, and that's why Arkheim calls himself Arkheim Ra. It's a title. It's not really his name.
Right, his title, and then Ra from the sun.
Yeah, and he found out through Ra is a name, but the name that actually is more familiar to him than anything is Jesby, which was discovered through Christopher Jacobs, which is the name he would use is Jesby, which is very close to Jeffrey, which was the name that he was birthed with in this reality. So I find that quite interesting.
And the Jesby version is the bird people.
Like a bird people served on a council on Earth, and it's a lot of it's like it's nuts, mate. Like I'm actually like trying to integrate these memories, and then also like reading about ancient Egypt to help both activate memories and learn at the same time and things. So that's something like that aspect, the raw aspect. That's something that we will have to go into in the near future deeply. Yeah. But for now, it's like more like I'm going to draw too many blanks and I'm going to waste your time. I apologize for that.
No, go ahead. Go ahead, Kat.
Oh, no, you go ahead, Brian.
I was going to ask in terms of the time travel aspects with Cynthia and Edward together, because it sounds like in your timeline, Edward, there's also time travel programs at 20 and backs, like you're saying, and so it's like maybe they were interacting in through like these 20 and backs, or going on time travel missions together.
He told me that because I've also been the wife of his alter Ryan Sterling. Cynthia has also been the wife of his alter Ryan Sterling.
So she's been with Ryan, and she's also been with Edward.
He told me that. Didn't you say that? Like,
well, it's like your energy signatures are constantly. It doesn't matter what timeline you're in. Your energy signatures constantly meet up.
This is Ron Hathaway is speaking to. So that's what happens.
Yeah, and so like we said earlier in this interview, like he burst through the door, he started calling me Cynthia, and like he starts talking in this accent, obviously.
And I may or may not have made love to her.
Yeah, this is maybe TMI, but it's important to the testimony, so I'm going to share this information. So this pretty much proves he is not grifting. He is not faking any of this. There were things that Edward, did not know about how I respond intimately to certain things that Arkheim knows. That there were things about how I respond that he had no idea of. He was actually very surprised. And you can fake a lot of things, but you cannot. It's very, very hard to fake something in an intimate moment like that, if that makes sense, right?
No, it makes a lot of sense. I mean, it just shows you that, yes, it's just, this is a phenomenon is real. The phenomenon is real, guys.
Like, I think I love her, like, in bit, like, my way of loving and everything is slightly different.
It is very different. Yeah, and he said that he's heard, he started to hear, like, I don't know, I've been kind of talking, like, there's vague hints of, like, a transatlantic accent or something coming through.
Yeah, her alter is coming out.
He says that, like, Cynthia's coming out as well.
Yeah, that's, and I feel so sorry for her, because she's, like, the responsible one, and...
I even, like, the picture that we took together, I feel like even he looks a little bit, like, obviously it's the same person, right? But I feel like there's something
the energy
about different.
Yeah, the energy is shifted.
Yeah, I feel like I look different now doing this video. Like, I feel like I look different than how I normally do. Like, I feel like I look a lot prettier, to be honest with you. But
another thing interesting, which I told her about. So there's a thing that's very interesting with Marilyn Monroe, where she said to, like, a friend at one point, she was out in public and she had sunglasses on and no one could tell who she was, and she was in incognito mode, right? And she said, "You want to watch me turn into her?" His friend, "What do you mean?" She's like, want to see me turn into Marilyn?" And her friend said, "Sure." And so she took off the hat and the glasses, and within moments she's just flooded with people. And the whole energy changed. And I explained to her that she has that same power. If she were able to step into her own confidence, like, every man around her would be, like, falling at her feet.
Yeah.
Because that's what I remember from her. Like, literally, like, your perception of the universe creates reality. And Cynthia perceives herself as beautiful. Therefore, all the men around her perceive her as beautiful, right? Yeah. She has less confidence about that, therefore it doesn't come out in the same way. But basically, if she can do the same, like, Marilyn thing, well, I'm beautiful, I'm a superstar, she can just decide that. And that's what I was trying to explain to her.
Yep.
In what is the state of the world in your timeline in 2028 in terms of the Draco reptilians, and the Orion Greys and the Galactic Federation?
Of like schoolyard, burly, junkyard dog types. We do have tariffs with them, taxes we pay that we're not exactly happy about.
Okay, so we're still under the Draco Reptilian Empire in that timeline.
They're powerful, mate. You can't just, like, say no to them and just win overnight. Like,
okay, so you're still paying taxes and stuff.
That's a lot over time. That's the thing that people need to understand, is you do need to say no to them. Sometimes it costs human life, but when it comes to time, like, Time Lords or whatever are able to look at things where it's like, okay, well, all these people died, but look at the future and how much brighter it is. Right. You know what I mean? Whereas people, in the moment, they just think, oh, well, all these people died. So it's like, sometimes you have to sacrifice. Like, that's a huge part of, like, being a warrior.
Especially the timeline.
Exactly. You have to be able to decide when it's like, all right, well, I'm going to have to make a sacrifice now. Like, and for the collective, for my country, for blood and honor, and for your people. Well, blood, I say loosely, because it doesn't matter who you are or whatever, but it's more about just, like, for your country, you know?
Right. That's right. Geez, well, any messages you want to share before? I don't know how much time we have.
Seriously, this petrol, like, it's literally the fucking blood of the earth. You're putting it in your cars, and then you have people who are like, I'm spiritual and I'm a guru. You need to have a fucking coal roller, you piece of shit. Like, what the fuck? That's crazy to me. All because of the WEF, which say no to those pieces of shit. If you need to own a car, fucking keep one. That's your right. But it's just like the way they make you depend on it. And that's a weird message. You think, wait, you're talking about aliens and shit? You're telling me, like, I should use the train more on public transit? What the fuck is this shit? What the hell? But I'm serious. I know cities in my reality are designed around people, not vehicles. So, like, people spend way more time outside. Which is,
and how's the food? What's the food like?
Makes your health better. These cars, they puff out like smoke and shit. You're suffocating in your own fucking cities because of it. You can see it in air, and it's just it's ridiculous. Like,
and in your timeline, there's no chemtrails in the air.
No chemtrails. Fuck no. We would never do that to people. Hell no. No chemtrails.
And then also, I was going to ask. Someone's asking here. Let's see. Earth had a time when it was only female, but the beings were not quite human. They were before Atlantis and Lemuria. So is the ancient history and real, true history of humanity and Earth much more known in your timeline, unlike the way it's so obscure?
Yeah, it's always going to be the victors write history, and there's a bit of bullshit. But I think that, like, people in my reality, they kind of understand, like, okay, government and even, like, educational sources and shit, it's, like, kind of the job to hoodwink you. So people, like, use that discernment more and are able to, like, learn the truth more, and the truth is just kind of, like, known way more. Like, for instance, like, you have, like, these New Age books and alternate history kind of shit here.
Is Johnny Enoch known in your timeline?
Yeah! Yes, he is, yeah.
Laura Eisenhower?
Amazing.
She might not have had to become a thing, because in your timeline, the Eisenhower administration might not have been undermined with the Kyoto Treaty.
Good question. I think she might be, but Johnny Enoch, I remember that name.
Okay.
And I do believe he's known in my timeline, yes. Like, Laura, she might be, like, very similar to how she is now, where she's, like, a spiritual advisor to people and things like that, but I personally kind of don't remember, I'll be honest with you, I don't remember.
Drago Reed?
He exists and is doing badass shit in my timeline as well.
Right. Drago?
For everyone and everything. Like, some of the most famous people in the world are still not going to be known by a few people, if that makes any sense.
Oh, of course, of course. I think you said you know of Drago Reed, what he's like over
there. Yeah, they call him the Solar Bulldog. Yeah.
The Solar Bulldog?
He's commander of a ship called the Guardian. And, it's like a Solar Warden ship. And it basically keeps bad guys and shitheads out of the solar system. And also, not only that, from all the realities and things. And, and a version of me also pilots a ship called the Gotham 1. And there's the Gotham 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. And they serve as auxiliary ships to the Guardian. And, yeah, the Bulldog, he's a commander, and he's well-known and well-respected.
Interesting. Let's see. Oh, yeah. So Jason's asking what the alternate reality of the Full Disclosure Now conference is like. And Jason, my understanding, and Edward can confirm this or not, in his timeline, there's no huge need for a full disclosure movement because it hasn't the realities, all these realities, inner Earth, ETs, space travel.
And then, like for you, like, you literally have people, like, in this reality, like, really, that's you, Brian, and Arkheim, we're like, guys, fucking look at this shit. Jesus, look at it. Oh, like, I'm shaking you for fuck's sakes. Well, in our reality, it's like you go to the library and you see books that, like, are on this shit, like, right there. And people are allowed to be interested in it. You're allowed to ask fucking questions. That's a big thing. Like here, like, for instance, with that thing that happened fairly recently, it's like people weren't allowed to ask fucking simple questions. Like, I can't ask a question. That's like a big problem, a mind control thing here.
You'll get censored. Yeah, your YouTube thing will get taken down.
To always ask fucking questions. That's part of, like, intellectual debate and, like, learning and, like, just like any, like, thriving, like.
So in your timeline, Edward, censorship isn't such a big thing as it is here.
It happens, but it's more like the more acceptable. Like here, like, people make excuses for it. Well, like, look, this person needs to be censored or whatever. And what's weird, it's so fucking hard to explain because that happens in our reality. Like, for instance, if a bad German were to decide to come out of the woodwork and write some book about this shit, we wouldn't let them do that. But we'd be like, fuck you piece of shit, and we stomp them out like the fucking cockroaches that they are. That's what we do in our reality. But also, when people ask, like, legitimate fucking questions that might be controversial or whatever, but as long as they're not hateful.
They're allowed to.
Right. They're fucking allowed to do it, for Christ's sake. Yeah, exactly. It's actually, instead of it being frowned upon, it's considered good. And in your reality, like, it's like if you're wrong, like people think like, oh, it must mean I'm a moron. I was wrong. That means I'm never intellectual. I'm never smart. I'm an idiot. Well, my reality is like, oh, I was wrong. I learned today. Now I'm wiser and I'm smarter. That's the way we look at it. Instead of like, oh shit, I was wrong. That means I'm a piece of shit forever. Fuck me. We're more like, oh wow, I'm wiser now. Thank God. Thank you. And they shake your hand to the person that taught you whatever they taught you, instead of being offended by it. You know what I mean?
Well, it goes to show you what our society could be if we're to be unleashed from these archonic forces who are constantly attacking us in so many ways and trying to distort and twist our society into what you see before you today versus where you came from.
Yeah, well, can you reiterate that?
Like our in your timeline, you guys didn't fall victim to the same Luciferian stuff.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And we've been subjugated to them for thousands of years. And time travel messery.
But and I want to explain something too. Like, we dealt with them. They ruled over us for certain periods and shit. And there's many dark periods in human history and stuff like that. And it's not that they never won. Like, for instance, like even during that time where the Catholic Church existed, there was many nefarious things happening during that time. And it took a lot of work and a lot of people sacrificing their lives to put the foot down and stuff like that. So it's not that my reality is just like sunshine and rainbows and there's no archonic forces. There were. They even ruled over humanity for certain times and stuff like that. But I would say that fortunately, like, progress has been made, and I feel like we remembered our past a bit better. Like we remembered certain things we fall victim to, and we're like, oh, we can't let that happen again. Whereas I feel like in this reality, it's like people are like, oh, never again, and then they see it all around them, and we're like, oh, what?
There's an amnesia here.
It's just like they know history, and then when it's like repeating, like they don't recognize it here. But we're in my reality, like we're trained to recognize it. You know what I mean? Like logic, like logical thinking, like that's like an intellectual thing that can literally like be taught in school and shit. You know what I mean? Like
absolutely.
And it's not taught in your reality. Penny Bradley talks about that. You don't teach it in your reality, so therefore you don't have it. And that's like how they control people. Like, they don't have logic. Like, that discernment is like using logic. You know what I mean? If you don't have logic, you know what I mean?
We get called conspiracy theorists, people who have pattern recognition skills.
Well, it's only a theory until you prove it's true, right? So, fuck, that's stupid.
Right. Well, I have to ask, what is the average life expectancy of humans in
117 years.
117, whereas here it's about 72 right now.
Yeah, we live a bit longer. It's like...
And healthier.
17 years is average. There's some people who live longer than that.
Medbed technology? Or no?
They're not poisoning you at every fucking turn on my planet. Yeah, that's another big difference.
Is there any medical bed technology available in your timeline?
Like rudimentary things, like cloning, like maybe an arm, and then like using like a hollow machine to like glue it on and stuff like that. But it's heavy duty regulated, and so like it exists, but like you can't just like live forever through a hot like that technology. It's like
no one's just jumping into a machine and being 30 again from 70.
It's more like we understand that human beings have a natural lifespan, and if you get sick, sometimes a lot of people are like, all right, well, it's my time, sort of, and
right. It's a more spiritual.
Yeah, a lot of people will try to say no and cling on to this reality, but normally people are all right, whatever, it's my time to go, which might seem strange to people from your reality, but that's how it is. But like, yeah, no, there is technology exists where like if you like are sick and you have like cancer and shit like that, the treatment is much better.
Okay, because I mean it makes sense that if you have a society that's much more open and psychic and spiritual and doesn't fear death, you're not going to have the same mania to try to like live forever and be young forever the way that this materialistic society.
The elders like are respected more. like in your reality, the sort of, and I'm
Ditched.
like, it's not like an obsession with youth.
Yeah.
And in our reality, it's like wisdom and age is actually valuable.
We live in a society that's kind of got this weird pedophilic beauty standard for women, especially.
Yeah, shit like that. And not only that, just like in my reality, we see our elders around us and we give them great respect. We revere them because they built like our world and we like our world. You know what I mean? So we respect them. And I do see a bit of a lacking today. Like I noticed today, Arkheim was at the grocery store and there was a couple instances where he interacted with elderly people. He was very kind and respectful to them, and they like looked shocked by it.
Yeah, they're not used to that here.
Yeah,
no,
like,
manners isn't a thing in this society.
Yeah, it's very interesting. I don't understand that. How could you ever be rude to like an elderly man or woman? Like they deserve to be treated with such tenderness and respect.
I mean, Edward, take your society subjected to thousands of years of satanic influence and undermining, and then that's what you get.
Fair enough, mate. Yeah, you're victims in a lot of ways.
This is why we need the movement.
Yeah, but that's what you're doing is saying I don't want to be a victim. Do you want to be a victim? That's kind of what this channel is. We don't want to fucking be victims anymore. So that's what this is all about. Is saying I don't want to be a victim. I want to live in a better reality. And what it is it's realizing what's wrong with the reality living. Looking at me, this is fucked. This is what's wrong, which is okay to do. Some people are like, don't do that. You just appreciate what you have. No, point out what's fucked up. You should do that. And then imagine a better reality. Like you can envision it. And through that, you can create it.
That's what we're doing.
Crazy. It sounds stupid. And it's like incremental. It's one step at a time. Like, if I imagine everything just world peace in 3 years, it's probably not going to happen. But if I imagine just small things like ripple effects, like it's stupid shit, like literally just it's being nice to strangers and shit that causes like a ripple. Like you're creator beings. That's why these Draco and these nefarious archonic tholuses love to siphon your energies, because like you're powerful shit. Like you're manifesting machines. And so what they do is they take over that and they use it for, you know what I mean? They use you like.
Well, speaking of, I got to ask then, to use our abilities to empower and free ourselves instead of them harvesting us for illusion on it. Are you, Edward, able to do remote viewing?
Yeah, it's part of my job. Yeah.
Okay. And then have you ever talked to Arkheim, or Arkheim asked you to maybe utilize your remote viewing skills to assist us in this timeline?
Very honest with you. I've made an effort to speak with you and things like that. But 90% of me has just been focused on this beautiful, wonderful woman.
That makes sense. I don't blame you. I don't blame you at all.
Yeah, so that's
okay. Well,
my attention has been.
Yeah, I think that's why I honestly think that's the biggest reason why he's stuck around so long. It's just because I'm here.
Right.
I've never seen an altar of his stick around this long before at all.
It's been almost a full day now.
Yeah. It's like normally.
You reached out 3 days ago.
Yeah, but there's like periods where Arkheim came back. And I've just been here. This morning, I left I told him, I was like, hey, am I overstepping my boundaries? And should I leave? And he was on the way to the grocery store. He says, fine, mate, you're my bro. I love you. I think you're an awesome guy. And you can take me over for as long as you want. Just make sure when I want to come forward to let me. And
then so Arkheim is still there. He's not in another timeline, another different space. He's
maybe he is. Maybe, but like
I bet he's probably doing something, you know.
Yeah.
It's
possible. Who was it? Gretchen. She said that, an individual Gretchen.
Yeah.
It could be correct. It could be something like that. I don't know. But for me, from what I sense, it was stress. And then the fact that I love whiskey. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
I love drinking whiskey, smoking cigars. Amazing. It's like one of the best fucking things to do, mate, right? Like, you probably agree with me, Brian. You look like you enjoy a nice smoke, a glass of whiskey and a cigar, right? It's amazing. And because of the tooth, had some whiskey, and I decided I'll get some groceries on the bike, and I also ride the bike. I love I literally wear the bike uniform and shit. Arkheim doesn't do that, but I literally have like a road bike and stuff.
Yeah,
and I love my bike.
Sterling both. Yeah,
and he's a mountain biker more. Right, yeah. Ryan Sterling loves mountain bikes more. Actually. Yeah, but anyway,
they all still love bikes. So
yeah, so I guess it's kind of part of Arkheim's identity, and so I think it was a combination between the whiskey, stress because he's been very stressed, and then being on the bike, I kind of came forward, and then. I land where I was like, oh, the city of Portland, this is quite beautiful. This is nice, and, whatever. And I was like, wait, your girlfriend's who? And I was just like, holy shit. And I just started riding the bike faster, because I'm very in love with this woman. I had not seen her for a long time.
Long time.
And so, and that was basically it. And then I don't know if I died. There's a theory I have I might have died. My memory's screwed. I probably soon, maybe even tomorrow, should meditate, try to figure out what the fuck happened, why am I in this reality?
We should talk to Christopher Jacobs. He might be able to help us sort this out.
He would be
and then you
absolutely.
Yeah. And then apparently Dr. Amir Jangahari did a session with Arkheim.
Yeah, brilliant. That man is. Yeah.
And by removing that, and he described it in a show we did earlier today with Ida Farhad on Cosmic Ruh, her podcast. He said he removed from Arkheim
like a basket, a plane, these compartments. Yeah, he did, and that's why the altars are bleeding through.
We suspect that might be one reason why you're here right now.
It's an unintended side effect. See, he's very wise, but Arkheim is an extreme subject. So he just saw this thing. He's like, this thing's in your brain. What the fuck is it doing here? Let me gently pull it out. And unfortunately, it's caused a bit of madness, actually. But I hold no resentment. It needed to be done. Sometimes you just need to rip off the Band-Aid, so it's fine.
There you go.
He's a very powerful healer.
Oh, yes. Yeah, I did a session with him, as has Ida. Well, let's leave it like this. Everyone, please put in the comments any questions that you would like us to follow up and ask Edward if we're able to do that follow up, and hopefully, we'll make it a priority to try to follow up with you and take advantage of the fact that you're here as long as you're here.
With you, by the way, everyone. I'm speaking with Typical Skeptic tomorrow. Who is that man? It's just wonderful. I know that you love him too, Brian. He's just a great guy. And that'll be fun, I'm sure. And just basically kind of the same thing, honestly. It's just talking about my reality and just some of the things you can learn from it, maybe.
Yeah, and one other thing I should mention, there's been a bunch of little examples of things that Arkheim knows that Edward doesn't know. Literally today, you were sending a text to someone and you spelled my name wrong. You spelled it Kath, ERINE.
Yeah.
And because in the phone it's saved as cat, on Facebook it's cat, but Arkheim knows that it's KATHRYN, but Edward did not know that. So
yeah, so she's just here to be I live with this man. He's my lover. And literally one day in Australia just showed up at my door, and it's not him, people. Literally isn't him. That's what her mind has been fucking blown by this all.
Yeah.
It's opened up things for her as well.
Yeah, I've got Ryan Sterling has not come forward that much, but I basically have 2 boyfriends now. Switching back and forth.
Yeah.
It's pretty amazing.
Well, let's see this. I need to sign off to go check on my little one. I'm a new dad, but I definitely, if we have the chance to continue this conversation, I absolutely would like to. And then also, I'll make it a point to hopefully I remember to reach out to Christopher tomorrow. Maybe Christopher can help us answer some of the questions that you might have, Edward.
Well, one thing I just want to answer one question to my Harris Greasy Help, which I love that name. It's hilarious. But basically, yes, Earth is just one of many planets And it's special because you live there and shit, but it's also just one of many planets. So,
Yep.
And congrats, Brian, is another.
Yes. And what shape is the Earth, Edward?
It's like round, but like more like potato-y kind of. I don't know.
Yeah.
Right. And it's not flat.
It's definitely not flat.
All right, there you go. Thank you. Take that, flat Earth. No.
I hope that everybody enjoyed this. It's been very interesting for me. For Preston Nichols, you can go see fuck yourself.
And anyone who doubts that his, that he's anyone who says that he's a grifter or a faker or anything like that, like, it's like, if anyone's still saying that, it's like
I was speaking with you, Edward.
I'm literally living with this man, and I can tell you that like everything that I've experienced is like 100% real. I'm not just saying that because I'm his partner. Like, it's 100% real. Like, this is not fake. This is not an act. So I guess, that's what I'm here to testify to. This is all 100% real. So get with the program.
Art imitates life. It's just, maybe I could give you a specific episode or whatever, but some of them are true. And anyway, we're wrapping things up now, though.
Yep.
So.
Okay, is Robin Williams still alive in your timeline? That was one question I really liked.
Yeah, I think he might be, actually. He was an actor and he's popular. And a comedian.
Yeah, a comedian, yeah.
Yeah, I don't think... Yeah, I think he was still alive.
Okay. All right. You got a better, more positive, happier timeline, and